discovered that Americans consider homosexuality more harmful to society than adultery, abortion, or prostitution.
Eh bien, il y aura de facto la procréation médicalement assistée. Je ne veux pas de cette loi parce que c'est une loi mensongère, c'est une loi qui fausse la filiation, c'est une loi qui brouille les...
Forever, we are allowing two people who love each other to have that recognised, and I can't see what's wrong with that for love nor money.
It's been interesting for me to find that people think my life is interesting. Because to me, my life is totally normal. Okay, kia ora. I'm Philippa Mulqueen. This is I've just finished 10 years teaching here at Pakuranga College. I think it'll be my last school. Got nearly 40 years of teaching behind me. Passionate about English, that's where some of you might have encountered me. I also do a lot of work with other teachers. And I suppose what makes me interesting to people, it would seem, is that I was a nun for 23 years and I'm also a gay woman. So here we are in the church that was a big part of my life when I was a child. I was fascinated by the idea of God. A church, of course, was a place full of God. And even today, coming back, it was kind of special. I think you can almost feel something sacred in the space, something to do with the way the light shines in. I decided to become a nun because for me it was the most natural thing in the world, and I was wanting to develop a relationship, a really deep relationship with God, and I wanted to be of service, so it was normal for me. So I think I've showed you the photo of that day in May 1982 when I made my final vows as a sister, and all these seats behind us were full of the nuns who were part of my community and whom I still think of as sisters. And I knelt here to proclaim my final vows with a heart full of joy and confidence that this was the way I wanted to live the rest of my life. I didn't know things would change. Part of being a nun, I'd been exposed to this idea of going to developing countries to help the people there. So I ended up in Senegal, in a little village with no power and no phone and roads that were made of sand. Felt really isolated. So this is the sort of school I was in. One room, usually made of millet stalks, or a bit like dried corn stalks. The only equipment, the kids would have one exercise book, a little mini blackboard, and the teacher had a blackboard and the kids had a reading book. It wasn't that I was unhappy, I was happy, but leaving was a decision to be happier. I'd fallen in love with Judith, who was also a nun 13 years earlier, but I'd hit a point in my life where I thought I wanted to be authentically who I was, and being a gay woman who was in love with another woman was part of that, and I couldn't do that and stay being a nun. So I made the very painful decision, after lots of reflection, made the decision that being authentic, being who I was, allowing myself to be loved by this woman and to love her back was what I needed to do. So I left. Came back to New Zealand to see if there was any way to stay as a nun. I went to teaching at the old school I'd been at before I left. It was the hardest teaching year I have ever had in my life, and I think that's because I was so churned up inside, because it was breaking my heart to think of leaving the community of sisters, to leave this life that I'd lived for 23 years, because I was happy doing that, but the thought of being with Judith and having a life where we had the right to be together, that was just between two great things. One was about being happy and leaving was about being happier. So that confusion in my heart, I think, came across in my teaching. So the physical part of teaching was hard. The kids I was teaching picked up something in me and they kept pushing the boundaries, so I felt a failure. I was worried, how am I going to earn a living? And I felt broken, thinking I was going to be leaving this community and hurting their feelings. Although I was happy to be gay, I wasn't as comfortable with all the parts of my life. I suppose I felt a bit worried about what would people think. First she's a nun, now she's gay, what's going on here? I think I've just got a bit more comfort with all of me. It wasn't that I was unhappy, I was happy, but leaving was a decision to be happier. Am I now, at this late stage in my life, the happiest I've ever been? And I think I am, but I think I'm going to keep on getting happier. I think that's, when you're living a life you love, I think that's what it's about. It just keeps getting better. That's my experience. Maybe I'm lucky.